Velkommen til ny Faglig Onsdag. Mitt navn det er Kirsti Svenning, og jeg leder Faglig Onsdag-webinarene for Buildingsmart Norge. Buildingsmart Norge det er en ideell organisasjon som trenger støtte fra nye og eksisterende medlemmer for å lage aktiviteter og fortsette å jobbe for å sikre bransjen sin bruk av åpne standarder for livsløpet. Så derfor tips gjerne andre interesserte om seminarene som ligger fritt tilgjengelig på YouTube. Opptak av dette møtet og presentasjonene de blir delt med alle påmeldte i etterkant. Dere kan stille spørsmål til innlederne i chatten. I dag så skal seminaret være på engelsk, men spørsmål på norsk tas også imot. Og vi tar en runde for å besvare spørsmålene til slutt. De kommer til å bruke halvtimen til presentasjonen, så det kan hende at vi bruker noen minutter etterpå til spørsmål, men det prøver også å svare ut underveis, så ikke vær spørsmålssky. I dag så skal vi inn til kjernen for suksess, kan vi kanskje si. Vi skal snakke om standardiserte resultatmålinger, ytelse, datakvalitet, BIM. Og til å sette hele i sammenheng så har vi hentet internasjonal hjelp, og dette seminaret kommer til å være på engelsk herfra og ut. Today we are going to talk about VDC metrics and BIM for driving success. We will shortly get to meet Tulika Majumdar, who is with us from Palo Alto in California, United States, and Katrin Johannesdottir, who joins us from Reykjavik in Iceland. Tulika and Katrin's collaboration began as mentors in the Stanford NTNU VDC program in Norway. And 2 years ago now, in 2024, they founded VDC Metrics to help project teams and organizations analyze data, establish meaningful metrics, and strengthen performance management across design and construction. Tulika is a global AEC professional who began as an architectural designer in India and has since worked with Skanska on a big hospital expansion in Oregon, tenant improvement in New York, and in corporate real estate across the US. She has led BIM adaptation and a mining project in Australia and was chief of staff at Venny Big Smart in Norway. Tulika holds a PhD and a Master of Science from Stanford University and is a certified VDC mentor focused on integrating data, technology, and workflows to achieve measurable outcomes. Katrin, she has a background in civil engineering, geomatics, and technology management, and more than 20 years of experience in the construction industry, primarily in infrastructure delivery on contractor side and in software development. Katrin's work spans GIS and BIM and virtual design and construction, supporting digital project execution and collaboration. Katrin also holds a VDC certificate from Stanford University and has served 3 times as a mentor in Stanford and NTNU VDC program in Norway. Currently, she's serving as a mentor for Stanford University's VDC program in Ukraine. Tulika and Katrin will share their time talking about measuring and metrics and how BIM can be utilized to understand the project performance over time. So, Tulika and Katrin, can you hear me? Are you already there? Please take it away.
Yes, we can hear you. And
thank you. Wonderful. Wonderful. Best of luck. We're looking forward to listen to you.
Good. Then
great.
We will go a bit through the theory behind the metrics. We're going to connect the metrics to the BIM construction. And then we show a bit from work we have done on a case study that we have done in Norway. A summary in the end. And you can, as he said, you can take questions throughout the presentation. We got a good introduction, so we're going to jump over this one. And Tulika, are you going to tell us more about the theory?
Can you just go to the previous slide, please, Katrin? Yes. Before we jump in, it's really important to understand what metrics are. So I'll walk you through the theory, but I wanted to just start out by asking you, what is the one word that comes to your mind when you hear metrics? Next. I'm pretty sure you all are thinking metrics means goal, a target, something related to performance, KPI, a measure. These are all terms that go around when we talk about metrics, and they are related to metrics. However, there are subtle differences. Now, we will talk about the differences as we go along in the presentation, but let's just, for now, think that they are related terms, but not exactly the same thing. Next, metrics are ubiquitous now, right? We encounter metrics in daily lives. We look at metrics for health. We look at metrics for weather. When we're driving, we have metrics, data, goals, targets, all of these things. They're about just about everywhere. Next. But the key thing to remember is that these metrics are serving a purpose. When I look at my Apple Watch and track my VO2 max or my heart rate, it triggers me to take certain actions or modify the actions that I already take, right? So it might be that I need to lift more weights. It might be that I need to now, the metrics are indicating that I need to eat healthier. I need to get my routine checkups done, have more water, or get more rest. Next. Similarly, for the weather, based on the weather, we apply sunscreen. We wear a mask if there is a poor AQI. If the metric says, well, precipitation X%, we decide whether to pack our umbrellas or not. And similarly for driving, we need these metrics to keep navigating, right? One thing is to have a destination. I want to reach from point A to point B, but the data, the metrics that I'm continuously looking at is helping me navigate my driving. Is the traffic looking bad on this route? Okay, I need to reroute. Did I just go over the speed limit? I need to slow down. Are there cops nearby? Well, I still need to slow down, right? So this is just to keep in mind that there are these measurements that we are looking at, but these measurements are triggering an action or a change in us. Next. And this is the same concept. So metrics, they're an integral part of the VDC methodology. VDC is nothing but virtual design and construction. It's a methodology. There's a lot of confusion, I know, around what is VDC. Sometimes people think it's a technology, but just think about it as a new methodology for project management. And metrics are an integral part of it. This is a simplified picture that you see on your screen. A simplified picture of the VDC framework, a framework which was developed in SciFi, my research lab, Professor Martin Fisher and his team. It starts out with the long-term metrics, which we all are familiar with on a construction project. We go by the construction cost, schedule, quality, safety, sustainability metrics that we need to achieve, right? Project has to finish by so-and-so date. And then we set to action. We assemble our team. We work around how we're going to manage our information, our workflows. And then, of course, we manage by milestones. However, the theory of metrics is simple enough to say that, okay, we have these long-term and mid-term goals, targets, metrics, which motivate our actions. And our actions then eventually impact whether we are achieving those metrics or not. Now, even though those long-term metrics are super important, there are these runtime metrics which project teams must measure on a pretty regular basis, daily, weekly, just as we do with the weather, just as we do with our health, just as we do with when we're driving, to be agile. Because the actions, these runtime metrics give us quick feedback to change our action if something is falling behind. They make us more agile. And in return, this impacts whether we will achieve our final objective of cost, schedule, quality, safety, sustainability or not. So metrics make it more likely that we will achieve our desired project outcome. That's as simple as it is. Next. Yes, the key thing to keep in mind is the short feedback loop and agility that these metrics offer. Next. So when we talk about the theory of metrics, metrics are a part of lean construction concepts as well. Many of you would have heard about the Plan, Do, Check, Act. This is a framework which is a very common framework that is fundamental to lean. You plan about something, you do. In order to achieve that plan, you do certain actions. Then you continuously check whether you are how you're doing, and based on the feedback, you act. So if you were to segregate this, the planning, you can think in terms of milestone, medium range. Next, medium range, long-term objectives, whereas the check and the act are more aligned with the day-to-day metrics and continuous improvement. Next, Katrin. Yeah. There's lots of papers out there that actually talk about this intersection of PDCA and metrics. So this is the theory. I mean, there's a lot more theory, but we don't want to get into that here. But what is the application of metrics in our industry? How does that look like? Sure enough, you're probably thinking, yes, we already do these continuous measurements, right? Many of you have heard or are using PPC, percent plan complete, in your work. We all talk about RFIs, requests for information, number of change orders, number of safety incidents, right? And these are all, they impact the final project outcome. But there's a handful of metrics that's going around in the industry. Could there be more, is the question, right? What about when we are doing PPC? Katrin, please go back. When we're doing PPC, are we taking into account the number of tasks anticipated? Are we taking into account number of tasks made ready? How is the next task going to begin if we are not tracking whether our preceding tasks are made ready? Or do we think about the number of times a BIM object was modified? If yes, what are the implications? Is it that the object is modified because of lack of skill or because of lack of decision? What is it? And once we identify those root causes, then we can take actions to improve the performance of these metrics, which you have to remember are eventually going to impact the project's outcomes. So just by looking at the number of RFIs, maybe that's not serving us or our team right now. Maybe we need to look at the number of days or hours we are taking in resolving an issue. And if we are taking more than what we have planned for, it's time to do course correction. Next. The thing to note is that in our industry in construction, there are, despite these certain metrics, we haven't really seen an industry-wide standardized use of metrics across construction the way we do in manufacturing. This is a snapshot of metrics, runtime metrics that have become pretty standard in the manufacturing industry. ISO 22400 is totally dedicated to that. And if you look at this, some of them are actually applicable to construction as well. First pass yield, scrap ratio, rework ratio, all of these could very well be used in construction. Next. So this was the question that was bothering me when I came for my doctoral research to Stanford, and I wanted to see or find out what are the useful metrics. And whenever we talk to about metrics to companies or project teams, immediately they want to know, well, what is useful to track? You could be tracking a bunch of metrics out there, but you don't know how useful they are. So through rigorous work, looking at projects that were being managed by 600 professionals in 2 different geographies, I was able to put or make sense of a lot of data that's out there, because there is a difference between data and metrics. And we put together this classification of runtime metrics. What you see on the screen are metric categories. So in a nutshell, any project requires collaboration among a diverse set of people. It requires management of information and management of workflows, right? And for each of these collaboration, information, and workflows, you have these 17 subcategories of metrics. And there is flexibility out here. Within these subcategories, even though my research was able to come up with 96 individual metrics at a very granular level, I'm not showing everything here. So the example of PPC, that's a granular metric, which will go under workflows and subcategory plan adherence. But there are others. Next. So if you think about it, go back, Katrin. The information management happens in modern construction projects through BIM, right? We think of BIM as a visualization tool, but it's much more than that. If we are all now, I think the industry is slowly aligning towards thinking of BIM as the single source of truth, which has all the data, it has information. So the category of information in this framework, which has clash detection and resolution, then planning of BIM, BIM objects, BIM rework, BIM used by disciplines, whether all disciplines are using or not. These are all BIM metrics. We're not tackling collaboration and workflows in this presentation, and Katrin will take over from here to talk more about BIM metrics that she has worked on.
Yes. I'm going a bit more to the practical use of metrics. And just to look at process. In Norway, there are a lot of projects using digital rebars. So we worked a bit on defining the process for rebar, who does what, and from the standard through tender phase in the preparing construction, and then in construction phase. How is the process and how can we improve the process? And then you start detailing, like you have the main process as you saw earlier, but we could look at just having rebars on site. And then we take that triangle we have there and we detail that to an even smaller process into how the delivery is done and when it's done. We also did the same thing for when you're ordering rebar from the BIM model. How do you do that? What is the process for that? And what metrics actually show you if this is working or how this is working? This is now just an example of rebar. I can go and measure, or not measure, collect data. I have data directly from the model. A lot of people are using, or a lot of projects are using the model directly to order the rebars. And then there is an order detached to the object in the model. And the rebar provider will see that order. But then it also, at the same time you do that, you also see the register, like the metadata for the order and the data within the order. You can see who ordered it because there's a digital signature. You can see when and how and what. And as long as you structure those data, you're able to document the whole process from latency, if something is missing. Doing that for every step of the process, not just for delivery on site, also for the procurement and also for the quality of the BIM, like is something missing from the data, or is the data not accurate enough, or what it is. You collect those data and then combining those smaller sub-processes that you have, you can look at the whole process for the rebars. And at the end, you get a feedback on the design data. Is something missing for constructability or for procurement or for other things in the process? And maybe something is missing in the standard. But for that, we need to have the data to analyze it. And this was like to show you how we work with process and metrics to improve the process itself. Looking at BIM objectives. I think all of us that have been working with BIM have gotten the question on, does it add value to your project? And also, like, what is the objective? Like, why are you doing BIM? On the right side, I have a bit from surveying. I'm a surveyor myself, so I like that example. But throughout the years, it has also been problem to collect the data, to have data in real time that you can use to collect the metrics, because it's too hard to do it manually. When you do that manually, and that you can often do when you work with CDE, for example, because the data or metadata, data about the data are there. So when you define the objective of BIM, are you looking for constructability? Is it the data quality you're looking at? And of course, those two things could be connected. Are you focused on productivity connected to the BIM? Is it the user behavior that you're trying to improve? You can also categorize the objective for BIM. Just as Tulika showed us earlier, how we defined and went through all the metrics done in the industry to that classification, it's like a matrix. You can have different classifications, and the metrics go into the same one. Just looking at, for example, constructability. So if I'm going to build from the model that most probably I am, I would want to know the constructability. If there are a lot of collisions in the model, then the constructability is low. So I need to define the constructability on the geometry. Are there collisions? I will count them and I will see how many are fixed, how many are left. I will need the maturity level and data on that. Also, like, am I going to use it for 4D? Am I going to use it for planning? Then I need to look at the schedule as well. And I have metrics for the schedule. So I can see the location-based planning. And then I can look at the BIM and see if there are pressures for production on site or the work breakdown structure. And those, like when I show the schedule, you can imagine that there are many metrics behind the schedule that will support that milestone. We go down also for data for production. What is the level of detail there? Are there surveying data there? Are there machine control data there? Am I allowed to use it to order for procurement, for rebars? And then you have it going. And that has many levels as well. We also have, like, on data quality that you can define in many ways. I'm showing here a bit from Kim, which is from Krabi Model from Bane NOR, where they have uploaded, like, the IDS files that that's the demand for the models that they have uploaded that you can use to validate the model. In Norway, we are also used to use the MMI level, which is maybe not directly quality, but it tells you about the maturity of the data that you're working with. You can also use it for quantities. And now I'm into, like, the technology of having runtime metrics. This is from DTO, where they can follow up on quantities in real time, tracking the trucks. You have all the data, what kind of material was moved from where to where. You have latency, you have circle hour. You can connect that to distance. You can calculate CO2. And then you have it going. You have a lot of data that you can get from production, both to see the productivity, but I can also look at the quantities in BIM, and I can see how much is left. If I'm going to do 10,000 cubics of quantities, then I can see how much is left. So those are real runtime metrics that projects are doing today. User behavior, useful, especially for implementation, where you can look at, maybe you want to look at the technology, counting features and all the BIM stuff. that often you can get directly from your CDE, and you will use that to see the capacity or efficiency of your technology. You can also use it to check the platform, who is entering the platform, what applications are they using. Looking at the time, I'm going to run really fast through here, just an example of using PPC with MMI. I'm just going to run through it where you see this is the plan, how we have planned the object level or the MMI level in the project for the design delivery. Here you can see it, how it is on the CDE, that you can classify all the objects according to MMI level. We can also see that on the plan, when we are working with the tasks in the plan, or we are supposed to have that MMI level in the plan, and we are not reaching it, we can analyze why are we not reaching it, like why are we not on time? And then you have the metrics for that, if you do, for example, the checkout. And with that, you can see what are the most common reasons why they did not manage to finish. And if it is like here, you can see like there are missing tools to actually do it, then you can act on it. So this is what Tulika showed you earlier in plan, do, check, act. I'm just going to show you a bit from the metric study. We worked with Bane NOR on Alnabru project, which is the freight terminal in Oslo. Norconsult and Bane NOR have taken it all the way with metrics there. And they are figuring out what metrics are useful, measuring how they can, what data they need for them. And Tulika and I have been working with them on that project to analyze the data, both from user perspective and from technology perspective. And with that project, Bane NOR has, they have started to develop on that project, to look at what they've done on the first project, which is Alnabru is like a pioneer project for metrics in many, many ways. And then they are taking out what actually works. And here, for example, you can see how they are using MMI to monitor the process for design delivery. Fast on that, yeah, there are a lot of dashboards. We are trying to find like the sweet spot for number of dashboards in the metrics. There's also a needed shared vocabulary for metrics. So people are using the same kind of data in the same way and saying the same thing. So everyone know that when you're talking about that metric, what it actually tells you and what it actually does not tell you. Yes, I think Tulika will take through the summary and recap.
Yeah, thanks. So with metrics, now you saw the theory, you saw the application. What we want to leave you with are a few key things. One is that long-term metrics, the ones that you set at the beginning of the project with regards to cost, quality, schedule, safety, sustainability, they are integral to project management, as are medium-term metrics for the milestones. Because if one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. This is my favorite quote by Seneca. So you have to establish those long-term metrics. Next. However, just by establishing a long-term metric and not really being agile during runtime, plans often fall off track. So runtime metrics are super integral as well. We can't just, this is 2026. We can't just rely on our gut feel or look at the stars while we're navigating the seas. We now have access to data. We're talking AI. So it just all makes sense now to keep monitoring real time and navigate along the way. Next.
Mm-hmm.
BIM is a key element of VDC, Virtual Design and Construction, which is a project management methodology. And BIM metrics are key, therefore, to implementing VDC. Next. I do want to leave you with this framework because using metrics, using BDC is a systemic change inside a project team or inside an organization or in the industry. So the industry really needs to come together for widespread adoption of metrics. We need that systems change, as we are seeing with Bananur in the example that Katrin showed you. Because for a system level change, you need all of these 5 elements: vision, skills, incentives, resources, and an action plan. So in order for metrics and BIM to be successful, drive you towards project success, somebody has to have that vision of using metrics. Like in our case, and in the Alnabru project, Bananur has a vision, which is why it was even possible for us to go in, help them with their plan. We have to have the skills. Without basic training on what metrics are and how to use them, it's only going to add anxiety in the project team. Without incentives, if we are not able to show the impact of metrics and how it leads to success, there might be a resistance. We, of course, need the resources. We're talking about all this data collection, availability of data, but if you're not putting in the resources, for instance, through dashboards, through hardware, software, AI, whatever it requires, it might lead to frustration. And in the end, if we don't have an action plan or a roadmap, then we are off to a false start. But all of these together will lead to that change, which we're hoping that metrics will bring about in the industry.
Brilliant.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Tulika and Katrin. I can't see any questions, but I have one. You've been working with Norwegian companies in the construction industry for a while now, for a good while actually. You mentioned projects back in 2009. And is there anything sort of, how are we faring? Are we okay in the global scheme of things? Are we leading? Are we lagging behind? How is the Norwegian construction industry doing in this regard, do you think?
Katrin, you can go.
Yeah. Yes, I can say I did live in Norway for a really long time. And I worked a lot internationally, especially lately. Norway is in the front especially when it comes to BIM, also how to use data and how to actually get value out of BIM. Because often I see internationally, like in the States and other places, I see that they have a really cool BIM model, but they're not using it in like production. They're not using the data directly for production data, or they don't rely on the BIM for the data they need. That has been common practice in Norway for many, many years. Mm. So I would say that Norway is definitely in the front when it comes to this. The culture and the technology.
Will we keep it up though? Because I mean, it moves fast now. What do you think, Tulika? Will we be able to keep the pace?
Yeah, first of all, Christy, I would like to agree with Katrin. Also, for the pace, I think this question is important because we have to keep in mind that, as you remember in my slides, I was talking about, we need capacity building in order to continue this momentum of VDC metrics. And Norway has so far really invested, the companies in Norway, industry in Norway has invested in people getting trained in metrics. So from here, sitting outside, when I look at the landscape, there are certain markets that are popping up. Norway is definitely one of those. It has the basics in place. It's not like they're doing BIM in isolation. When they talk about implementing VDC, they're doing it holistically with those 3 pillars of collaboration, information, and workflows. So yes, I do believe that Norway will be able to keep up.
Thank you so much. And I see that Katrin has also presented you with a feedback form. Please fill that out, those of you who are still left here. I think we'll just round it off. Thank you so much. I certainly feel somewhat wiser. Thank you so much to both of you. And I'll round off in Norwegian. So if you'll just do the last slide, Katrin. Ja, så til slutt så vil jeg bare minne på at hvis du vil bli medlem i Building Smart, eller bli mer aktiv enn før, eller ønsker å vite mer, så er det bare å ta kontakt. Meld deg gjerne inn i en av arbeidsgruppene, eller kom med forslag til tema for en ny Building Smart. Det er åpne for innspill av alle slag. Tusen takk for i dag. Vi er tilbake med en ny Faglig onsdag 18. mars. Så da gjenstår det bare å ønske hver og en av dere en riktig god onsdag. Og tusen takk til Tulika og Katrin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tusen takk. Thank you.
Takk.
Tusen takk.